Good morning. We are getting ready to treat some beans this afternoon. I've got both of my heaters running down there. I had to fill the propane tank, put a little diesel in the other one, so it's warming up, and hopefully it won't be too bad down there. It was still pretty warm when I got there this morning, but both of the heaters had run out of fuel overnight, so that's good. I've been working on the computer here for a little while this morning, making sure that my list of what gets treated with what treatment is up to date and accurate so that I can, put the right stuff on the right beans. So I think I've got that pretty darn close at least, and we can get started with some. We need to get these piles of treatment down there so that we've got what we need. And I got to fill up my water shuttle, so we're going to have to bring that back down here to the farm and fill that up because I don't have water down there. So that's what I'm working on now. I'm going to use a forklift to set these pallets in the back of my truck, and then we're going to take them down there and get everything set up. All right, well, we're getting set up here. I got my computer and all my chemicals through here. So we've got our Cruiser Max Vibrance, which is our base treatment that's going to go on pretty much guaranteed. It goes on every bean that we treat, so that's what I've got the most of. I've got 4 more of those kegs that are still down in the shop. I just brought the one that I need for now. This one is just yellow colorant because Golden Harvest's colors are blue and orange, so we like our beans to be orange. I put it in on some of the ones. Well, the ones that are the base Cruiser Max Vibrance get the colorant. Anything that's getting a higher treatment than that does not get the yellow because well, basically it's too much stuff to put on the seed. So that's what that is. Here's our apron. We add that. It's a fungicide. There is some of it already in the Cruiser, but at a very low rate, so we're doubling the rate and putting on full rate of Apron XL. So I add that. The Chloriva is for soybean cyst nematodes. Some people will use that, some will not, so that's kind of an elective treatment, I guess. And then this one on the end here is our Saltro. That's the new treatment from Syngenta to control sudden death syndrome. Also has some activity on cyst nematodes as well. And so we'll add that to a few, but that one's pretty expensive. I think that box right there is worth about $8,000. So yeah, that's what we've got. I put the water tank in the back of the truck so we can take that back and fill it. But before we do that, I want to work on getting this mixer installed. So I need to cut a hole. I'm going to have to do some measuring and make a template here, and I'll show you that before I cut it. And then we'll get this thing installed. I really don't think it's going to take that long, but we'll see. There, I got it. All right, now I need to shop back all the shavings out of the tank. I was thinking and put some tape over the hole so they didn't go down in there. We'll get it cleaned up, and then we gotta slide this piece on, drill some holes for the bolts, and then bolt that into place. All right, I'm gonna go and get a drill. I gotta drill these holes. I thought about trying to do it with the Dremel, but I think I'll get a better hole with an actual drill in a bit. So I'm gonna run back to the farm and get those. We'll take that water tank and get that started filling up. I need some wrenches to tighten my bolts up anyway once we get to putting it all together. So we're gonna go get that stuff. We're getting closer here. Well, there's 200 gallons of water. And I got my drill, so I'm gonna drill some holes and we'll get this mixer mounted. And then it'll be lunchtime. Nothing's ever easy, guys. Man, I tell you what. All right, so we got this rod in. We've got this bracket loosely bolted on here. Look how far that thing sticks out. That's a good 6 inches. Now, how am I supposed to take this motor and couple it to the end of that rod and support it and get it to turn? Yeah. So I called the company, and they said, well, you're just gonna have to cut it, I guess. Okay. So we're gonna have to take that out, figure out where to cut it, for one, how long, and then cut it, and then it's gotta have a flat spot for the coupling, the set screw, to grab onto so that it doesn't just sit there and spin. Yeah, I don't know. So this is going to take me a little bit longer than I want it to, but we'll figure it out. So I gotta do some measuring, and then I don't have my grinder down here because I took it back to the farm, so we'll just take it back there, we'll slice it off, grind a flat spot, and we'll get it put together yet. Okay, well, got it installed. I gotta tighten up these nuts that hold the motor on because I grabbed standard wrenches, and you know, the rest of the bolts were standard, but those are metric. So I don't have the right wrench, so I gotta go tighten those up. I got the start switches installed, got that all wired up. So we are good to go. It's lunchtime. I'm gonna go grab some lunch. When we come back, we'll tighten that up, make sure everything works just like it's supposed to, and then we'll get started treating some beans. All right, I'm back from lunch. I got my bolts tight on this mixer. Check it out. It works. Spinning away. Got a fancy little start and stop button there. It does get a little wobble to it until it smooths out. That's okay. So the treater, at least from a mechanical standpoint, is ready to go. I need to clean up the stuff on top and get my recipes going on the computer. We'll get our water tank put up here, and we're I think ready to start opening some bean boxes. Okay, I've got some stuff moved around. We got a box under our auger to treat beans into. I got 10 boxes set out here. These are 2788s, a 2.7 bean, and they are where we are going to start treating. Although I'm just looking at it, and that's close enough. I was gonna say we've got a little bit of a problem. I like to keep the seed size in my batch all the same because seed size affects the rate, how much we're putting on and stuff. So if they're the same lot number, this number right here is a lot number, and if that is the same on all the boxes, then I know the seed size is the same. I've got a different lot number here on some of them, but the seed size is 2,684 seeds per pound and 2,656 seeds per pound. That's close enough. I'm not going to worry about it. If they were like 200 or 300 apart, then I would separate them and do them as separate batches, but that's close enough. So what I've got to do is take all of these lids off, and it's a giant pain in the butt. I hate these little blue tabs. If you make these tabs, I hate you. They suck to get out. They're a pain. Zip ties are much better and faster, which is what we'll put back on them. I know it's a so that you can't open it and then reseal it. I get it, but still, they're a pain. So that's what I got to do now is take all those lids off. Then we've got to get chemicals started mixing. We've got to agitate the stuff in our shuttle for probably 10 minutes before we pump anything out, just to make sure it's good and mixed and recirculated. You can see in the colorant one here that there's clearly a layer that has kind of separated as it's been sitting over the winter. So that's kind of the next steps here. Get the lids off and then get chemicals started mixing. Look, beans. All right, well, I got to get all these lids off, and we'll set them off to the side for now. I do, however, want to, if I can find it, see what the temperature of those beans is. Where's my thermometer? All right, I got all the lids off. 46, it looks like, which is above freezing and above 40 degrees, which is good. That's what I was hoping for. So our heater has done its job. They should take treatment just fine. Time to get some chemicals mixing and then get our display on our treater set up right. Okay, let's get one of our pumps hooked up. So first thing we've got to do is cut this band that costs me, I don't know, $12,000, $15,000. Because once this is cut, you can't return it. All right, we'll get that out of there. Pull the caps. Now, these pumps, there's a in and an out basically on here. And so what we do is we use the pump to recirculate the jug. So this fitting here goes on that one, and it just pushes on. If I I get it lined up right? Come on. Hard to do one-handed. There it goes. Okay. And then this one fits in this other fitting. And you get it in the right spot. Twist it. Lock it down. All right. So there is no touch. You don't have to touch any chemical in order to do that. So those are locked on. And then we've got a valve on our pump down here. And there's a little arrow. I don't know if you guys will be able to see that or not. So there's a little arrow on there that says flow, and it points that way and that way. So when I'm going from here to that means it's going to recirculate. If I turn this, and now the arrow points that way and that way, this one goes to our hose that has the nozzle that we use to measure out chemicals. So we want it turned like that, so we recirculate it. We'll turn our pump on. So now it's drawing out this one, cycling it back through and pumping it in there. We're going to let that run and mix that tank up for 10-15 minutes because it's been sitting for a year. So I'm also going to hook this one up onto the yellow and let it do the same thing. All right, so while I let those mix, I'm going to come back over here and get my variety and the weight and the rates and all of that stuff set up the way that I need it. I got to go into the profile editing screens and seed editing and all that good stuff. So yeah, I gotta figure all that out. I'm getting my rates from this calculator that Syngenta gives us on a computer. Put in the products that we're using: Cruiser Max Vibrance, the added Apron XL, yellow colorant, and the rates, and you put in whether you're going to treat by milligrams of active ingredient per seed or fluid ounces per hundredweight. I treat by active ingredient per seed. So what that means is that every single seed, no matter how big it is or how much it weighs, has the exact same amount of chemical on it, active ingredient. And it's just a little bit more accurate to do it that way. We're going to do 400 units in this run. Seed size, I got to write down off of one of them boxes. Let's look at this one. Seed size is 2656. There's 3 boxes that are this little bit smaller seed size, the 2684, but we're just going to go with that. We'll call it 2660 seeds per pound. And then you tell it how fast it's going to flow through your treater, what your target total volume that you're going to put on is, so it adds water to make up the difference. I'm going to shoot for 6 fluid ounces per hundredweight, and then it will calculate exactly how much of each of those chemicals that I need to put in. So we're going to use 365 fluid ounces of water, 600 of Cruiser, 60 of Apron, 239 it looks like of yellow colorant, and that's what's going to go on the entire 10 boxes of beans. So yeah, that's what we've got to measure out when those are done mixing, and I got to get put in the screen to know the rates and exactly what's going to go on. All right, well, we're getting close here. So I've got my seed, just this one variety, and the water and CMV chemicals put in there. CMV is Cruiser Max Vibrance. So then I have to build a recipe. So my recipe name here, CMV, Cruiser Max Vibrance, the base treatment. And what we're putting on is Cruiser Max Vibrance plus the Apron XL plus the yellow at a rate of 2.25 ounces per seed count unit is what that means. And the water at 0.91 ounces per seed count unit. So that's what we want. We'll hit the save button here. And then the treater is set up. The next step is to put chemicals in the tanks, mix them up, and then calibrate our pumps to make sure that they are putting the right rates out. I also went through and made sure that I put my screens back on and that all my valves are in the right place before I start dumping chemicals in there, because that would be a bad thing to do. We're going to start with water. So let me look. What did that number say? 365 fluid ounces of water. 365 divided by 128 in a gallon means 2.85 gallons. We're just going to put 3 gallons in because it doesn't matter if there's extra water. Okay, I didn't put all the water in. I forgot. I usually use the water that I add to that tank for rinsing out the other containers. Some of these things are pretty sticky, so it puts some water in them and helps rinse the containers out to get it all out and into the treater. All right, let's go ahead and get our cruiser measured out. I just did the math on 600 fluid ounces. That is 4 gallons and 88 fluid ounces on top of that. So I'm gonna start measuring that out, and we're gonna dump it into tank number 1. There's 1. Two. And there's the 88. So we have almost 5 gallons in there. Not quite, but now we've got to get our yellow color. All right, I dumped in my yellow. Now let's turn on our mixer and see how orange it turns. Come on, there we go. Cool. Well, that's gonna work really well. Awesome. All right, so we got one more thing we got to put in there though. It is always the last thing that we put in because there's a specific order that you have to mix chemicals. And those other 2 are water-based. This one is, I think what they call an emulsifiable liquid. I don't know, but it's the last one that has to go in this Apron XL. We need 60 ounces of that, which will fit in our half-gallon measuring cup here. So. Okay, we'll let that drain. So that's everything that goes into our slurry tank there. We do need to finish our water, and I've been rinsing. This was the jug that I used for the cruiser that I started rinsing with the water. So we'll do that with the yellow and that apron jug and get the rest of our water in there, and then we'll calibrate our pumps. Okay, now that we've got everything in there, we're mixing up real nice. I want to circulate the pumps. So we look at our valves here, and we want to hit this one to say recirculate. This one, that one shouldn't matter yet, but we're going to put it on process just so nothing comes spewing out of this hose. Same thing over here, recirculate, process. And then we're going to open the valves on the bottom of the tank and hope nothing leaks. We should get some liquid come through this hose at some point. I'll do the same over here. Okay, let me open this. There we go. So these are our pumps. They're peristaltic pump. Basically, it's got a squeezes this hose and pumps the fluid through it. So you got to have those closed. You make sure you open them when there's nothing, when you're not using it, so it doesn't wear the hoses out. So okay, so we've got that going. We're gonna come back over to our screen, go to this, and we've got to assign our pumps. Hold on. Okay, so now that it's got the right chemical listed there and stuff, we're going to start with the water one, and we're going to push this hand button, which starts our pump down there. And it should be, yeah, pumping it right back into the tank. So that'll kind of recirculate it a little bit. We'll do the same with this one. See it coming up the hose and back into the tank. Cool. So that's working good. Now we need to calibrate. So we're going to hit the pump calibration button and pump one. We're going to run it for 60 seconds and we're going to catch what comes out of it. Okay. So now we're gonna catch whatever comes out over 60 seconds and then we'll measure it. Okay, so the pump shut off, so that was our 60 seconds. We'll let, okay. Kink that up so it doesn't leak everywhere. Now we're gonna go measure this and see, set it on a flat spot and make sure, see what it says we've got. Totals, it says it should have 30.35, I guess, is what it thinks that it put in there. So now we're gonna compare that to what we've actually got. Looks like we're at 34. Just under 34 maybe, so we got a little bit too much. So we've got to adjust our calibration factor. We'll tell it that there's, yeah, 30. I don't know. It's just under that 1,000 mLs. The 34 line is a little bit above that. So we're gonna call it 33.75 fluid ounces. We'll put that in there and the pump will automatically adjust itself and then we'll run it again. Okay, second shot on the cruiser calibration was right dead on. It was exactly what I wanted. So that is good. I also calibrated the water pump. That one has never had anything but water in it, rinse water. So it was also dead on, which is exactly what we wanted to see. So we have chemicals ready. Our pumps are calibrated. We're good from there. So now we need to set our valves to process, calibrate, process. Process, calibrate, process, so that it will send chemical down these tubes that go all the way over to here. This is where the two meet up and will mix before they go into this hose, which leads into our atomizer. So the way that this works is that hose pumps through here and it drops it down into this thing that spins real fast. Basically the liquid flies out through that screen. Let me turn the light on. There, so the liquid comes in through here, this spins real fast, the liquid flies out through there as the beans come down around this cone on the outside. So it kind of forms a funnel or a cylinder around that spray. They get coated and then they fall down into our auger where they then mix and head up into the box. So we need to make sure this is pushed in and latched. We need to make sure that our valves are open here, closed here and there so that we don't leak any. That should be good to go. So we're ready for a box of beans. Let's set one up there. All right, the first box of beans is on the treater. We've got to break our zip tie that seals the gate. And let's see, okay. We need to prime these hoses to our atomizer before we start. Otherwise the first half the box, well not half the box, but the first couple of units would come through with no chemical on them because it takes a while to get there. So we're gonna hit prime to atomizer and that turns on both pumps. You can see, maybe you can see, there it goes, the liquid flowing through. Eventually you'll see it come up that hose over there. There it comes. Now it will come up through the top. I don't know, oh yeah, we'll be able to see it moving up that one. Here it comes. And we'll stop it when it gets to there. Okay. One of my little tricks that I learned last year was to put these foil pans under there because it will drip chemical sometimes, and I can catch it in that little one and dump it back in, and then the bigger one will catch, when I clean varieties, there's a little door on the bottom of that auger that opens up and that will catch the beans that come out there. Okay, so now that we're there, we're gonna hit the start setup button. Make sure everything's right. We're on this Cruiser Max Vibrance recipe, 2788s with that lot number that ends with, yeah, 363. We're gonna Open the box. There's another gate in there that it controls itself. So we got seed primed, and hit the start button. See if it works. Auger's on. Is it gonna start? There it goes. Beans are flowing. Pumps are on. And we got orange beans. What a deal. I'm gonna slide my box over a little bit. I gotta use the forklift. Well, that looks awesome. Everything looks good. See, we did get a little bit of chemical drip out from where we primed that. That's why I do it. If you look in here, hold on, let me turn the light on again. There you can see the beans flowing through. They look untreated because the treatment's all on the inside, so you really can't see it until they mix at the bottom. But they come out looking like that. And that's awesome. This readout right here shows me how much weight is left in the box when it gets empty. This green light right here is telling, it's a proximity sensor that is right here. When it stops sensing beans, it shuts off the pumps and it lets the auger keep running until it clears out. So we just wait for it to stop, and we hit the pause button so it stops the auger. We take that box, set it off to the side, put that box, which is then empty, underneath the auger, and set another one on, and we keep going. So here's the first full box. They look great. Coverage is excellent. I was wondering about that. Yeah, I'm for the first box out of the gate, they're great. We got the second one running right now. Takes 5 or 6 minutes per box, and much time as we can take or not take to move them between them, and we'll cruise through these pretty quick. Probably take me an hour and a half to do them all, I guess. It's about 4 o'clock now, so that'll be good. It'll be 5 o'clock about when we're done. Another thing that I do need to do is put tags on all of the boxes. So anything that gets treated has to be labeled. This is the label that has to be on it for this particular treatment, Cruiser Max Vibrance. So I'm going to slide this into this box. Come on. Just like that. I did not put one in that box because that box is mine and it will stay here. What I'm going to do after I get done treating all of these is I'm going to let them sit overnight, and then tomorrow morning when we come back, we'll transfer them from one box into another, so they'll all end up in the same box that they started in. And so that's why I'm just putting a tag in this one, and then we'll put one in the next one, and so on. So all of these boxes will get tagged. Well, I'm over halfway. This will be box number 6 going in right now. They still look really good. Everything's going well. This is the last one. You can see how they're kind of shiny yet. They're just a little wet. If we come over here and look at the first one, they've dulled just a little. I don't know if you guys can tell a difference or not, but I can. That's just the beans drying. One thing to note, don't do this. I'm gonna go wash my hands, but don't do this, right? Touch them. See how they kind of stack up a little bit like that? That's why I transfer them back to a different box, just to help break them up so nothing's bridged in there. So when my customers get them, they don't have any trouble getting them out of the box. So I don't think I got any on my hand, but I'm gonna wash it anyway. One other thing that's important that I do while I'm doing this is keeping good records. So I've got a spreadsheet here that I use. I'll keep track of every batch that I do, write down the date and the variety, lot number, how many units and what exactly we're putting on, you know, what the slurry volumes are. And then at the end on the treater, it will give me a report, tell me how accurate it was and what the total applied was according to the treater. So I'll write those numbers down as well. I will also then, I've got some Ziploc bags. I will take a sample out of one of the boxes. In fact, I still have all the ones from last year here. This is my wheat, and in these boxes, I have a sample of every batch of beans that I treated last year, just in case I have a problem, in case somebody says, hey, you shorted me on treatment or something. I can pull a sample from the batch of beans that they got, or whatever the problem was. We can send them to the lab and have them tested just to make sure I didn't make a mistake, because I'll own it if I did, but I just want to have myself covered in the event that something happens. So that's why I keep all these samples. I suppose I could get rid of the ones from last year at this point. I think I'm okay there. So I'll dump those out into a bucket or something, and then I'll start saving this year's samples in my totes. Last box is on the treater. So for this last one, we just got to kind of watch and make sure we're not going to run out of chemical. I think that one looks okay. The water tank was a little close. You may dump a little more in there because it's just water. Doesn't matter, right? If the chemical one runs out, then it's a little bit more of a big deal because you got to mix up more chemical. The water one, we can just dump some water in, no problem. Okay, we made it. Had just almost perfect. There's just a teeny tiny little bit left in that one. Water tank I did dump a little bit in, so we got a little more, but that's good. That means our treater ran perfectly. It means that we got the right rate of chemical on. Yeah, I'm thrilled. I will go in here on this and hit the reports button, and we'll view, come on, the report from today, which it thinks that it is January 2nd, 2000. Forgot to set the clock on it, but we ran total seed count 399.03. That means Syngenta shorted me a unit across 10 boxes. Averaged 698 pounds per minute. We put on 906.2 total ounces of our chemical mix, 364 of our water, and then the accuracy 100.9, 100.3. It doesn't get a whole lot better than that. Awesome. Great start to the treating season. So that's 10 boxes down, a lot to go. I've got some custom treating to do for a neighboring dealer, so it's more than just what's in here. Yeah, we are doing good. So I'm gonna move this box out of the way and set that one off to the side. When we come back in the morning, we'll dump stuff. We'll start with the last box we finished, dump it back into the one that it came out of, and then we'll work backwards so they all end up in the same box that they started in. And we'll keep going tomorrow. I gotta sit down and figure out what's next and what else we want to treat. But all of these need done, so we can do it. And we'll go from there. It is raining pretty substantially out at the moment, which is no fun, but what are you gonna do? All right, I think I'm done down here in my seed warehouse for tonight. I am gonna take the propane tank and go fill it up. It's not empty, but I wanna be able to let it run tonight, keep it warm. It's supposed to be mid-60s tomorrow, or 62 at least. So we may not have to run the heaters tomorrow, or at least not very much, but I don't want to keep it warm tonight again yet. So I'm going to fill that up. We'll top the other one off with diesel before we leave tonight, and we'll go for it again tomorrow. All right, guys, that's going to be the end of today's video. I'm pretty happy we got some beans treated today. That was my goal for this week, was to get started today, and we made it. So that's good. Hopefully we'll get a few more done tomorrow. I got to sit down and figure out exactly what all we want treated and stuff and what goes on them. It gets a little more complicated the farther we get, and then figuring out whose everything is and getting stuff delivered. So we'll work on that. I don't know if I'll get any beans and stuff delivered next week. Maybe. I somehow doubt it, but we'll start getting to that point here pretty soon, I suppose. Yeah. Have a great night. Find me on Instagram, Facebook at Borderview Farms. Hit the like and subscribe buttons for me if you would. Hope you're enjoying the videos. Leave me some comments and feedback down below, and we'll see you guys tomorrow.